Today we will be solving equations by adding. And so the first five problems that we deal with will ask us to solve the equations and then check the answer that we get. So when we solve equations, we always do opposite operations. So for instance, here we have 40 equals the variable p minus 11. So what I'm going to end up doing is the opposite of this minus 11. So the opposite of minus 11 is add 11. And that's what I'm going to do on both sides of this equation. So I add 11 to the left-hand side, I end up with 51 equals the variable p. Well, I want to check to make sure I'm getting the right answer, so I'm going to go ahead and substitute this 51 back in for p. So in place of p, I put 51 and then minus 11. So I go ahead and do some work here. Subtract the 11 from 51, and that gives me 40. And since the two numbers do equal, that means I did the problem right. So 51 is the answer. Well, here we have the same sort of thing, just different numbers. So we're using an opposite operation again. Always move the term that's next to the variable. So that's a minus 6, so we're going to end up adding 6 to both sides. And so once I do that, I'm left with the number 34. So then I go ahead and check and see if 34 is the correct answer. And so I go ahead and take that 34 and put it in for D. So I now have 28 equals 34 minus 6. Well, when I take 6 from 34, I end up right back at 28. So I did the problem correctly. So that is my answer. Take a look at the next one. The difference is that the variable's on the left-hand side of the equal sign. Plus there's different numbers here. Well, no fear, there's just a minus 9 being that is working against the variable, and so we're just doing the opposite operation. So I'm adding 9 to both sides. So it leaves me with n equals, and I add the 9 to 42, gives me 51. And so again, I got 51 as an answer. So I'm going to go ahead and take that 51 and put it back in for n. So 51 minus 9. See what I come up with. If it's 42, then I know I did the problem right, and it is 42. So when I know the two numbers are the same, then I know I did the problem right initially. Same thing over here, minus 85, so I'm doing the opposite of a minus 85. I'm adding 85 to both sides. So when I add the 85 to the 8, I end up getting a 93. So I'll check that answer, see if it's right. 93 minus 85. See if it equals 8 or not. Well, when I do that subtraction, I do get 8. So when the two numbers agree, then you know you did it right. Well, the next problem, we have 47 equals w minus 38. So I'm going to end up adding 38 to both sides. So add 38 to this other side here. That leaves me with an 85. So 85 equals w. So we'll check the answer. See if we did it right. Put the 85 back in for w, take away the 38, and sure enough, you got to borrow from the 8, change it to a 7, and you do end up back at 47. And so when the two numbers agree, you know you did it right. Well, from there we're dealing with some word problems. So all we have to do is be able to write one of these subtraction equations. So let's take a look at our first one. Ted took 17 pictures at the aquarium. He now has 7 pictures left on the roll. We're going to try to write and solve a subtraction equation. So a subtraction equation means that it needs to look something like what we've got up here. So we're going to start with an unknown. And what's unknown in our problem? Let's take a look. Well, if we go to the question, it says to find out how many photos Ted had when he left for the aquarium, or when he went to the aquarium. That's the unknown. We don't know how many photos. How many photos does he have in the beginning? So this is what he starts with. The number of photos Ted starts with. That's what we don't know. So let's assign a variable for that. So they don't say what variable to use. So let's just go ahead and use n. n equals the number of photos Ted starts with. So that's what we're going to start with, n. And now we're going to take something away because it's a subtraction equation. So what are we taking away? Well, let's see what the question was initially. Ted took 17 pictures. He has 7 left. So this is what we're taking away right here. He took 17 pictures. So he had n photos to start with, but now he took 17 pictures, so he doesn't have those 17 anymore. So what's left over? Well, what's left over is 7 pictures left on the roll. So we have equals 7. So that's our equation, and so now we're going to go ahead and solve it by doing an opposite operation. So we're going to add 17 to both sides. So when I do that, I now have n equals 34. So that's how many pictures he started with, and he had 7 left over after he took those 17 photos. We're going to do the same sort of thing here. We're going to try to write in a variable, or come up with a variable to represent an unknown, and then write an equation. So Ted bought a dolphin poster for $12. Okay, he bought something. So what does that mean? Does that mean we're adding something to what he had, or subtracting it? We've got to think about that. We'll come back to that. He now has $5. I'm going to write and solve a subtraction equation to find out. Okay, so here's going to be where our unknown is. How much money Ted took to the aquarium. Okay, so let's use n to equal the amount of money Ted started with. So that's our unknown. We don't know what that amount is. And so we're going to start with that. So that's our starting point. Now it said he bought a dolphin poster for $12. Bought means that we're going to take away. We're taking away some money. So take away some money. And so we're taking away those $12. He now has $5 left over, so that equals $5. So now we've written our equation. So now we're going to go ahead and solve by doing an opposite operation. So this is a minus 12, so we're just going to add 12 to both sides. So now we have n equals 17. So $17 was the amount that Ted started with, that he took to the aquarium. Well, let's take a look at our next one. After dropping 5 degrees. Dropping, what does that mean? Dropping 5 degrees, that means you're taking away 5 degrees. Okay, so dropping 5 degrees, the temperature was 25. So this is like the new temperature. The new temperature. Kind of like how $5 was the new amount that Ted had after he bought the dolphin poster. Or kind of like 7 pictures was the new amount Ted had after he took the 17 pictures at the aquarium. So we're going to write a subtraction equation again, using the variable t to show what starting temperature was. So t, they're telling us right here, t equals the starting temperature. All right, so we're going to start at that point. So t minus, now what are we taking away? Well, it dropped 5 degrees. We're taking away 5 degrees equals the new temperature. The new temperature is 25. So there's our equation. Now let's go ahead and solve it. And so when we solve this, we're just going to do an opposite operation. It's a minus 5, so we're going to end up adding 5. Add 5 to both sides, 30 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the original, or the starting temperature. Well, those are types of problems that you'll see on tonight's homework. Good luck.